Well, it's Thursday, and you all know what that means. As you know, TNA are now building up battle lines to turning points. So there's a lot of things that will be taking place. And then, of course, we have Ring of Honor with a proving ground match, and of course, a false count anywhere match for the Ring of Honor the women's world television title. So anything's gonna happen around there. But first things first, we're going to be reviewing ChocoPro's much recent event from back on November 2nd with rising tension in Shinkiba. Nothing too significant, no title matches, but some interesting matches to take a look at. And then, of course, GLEAT much recent event that took place, G Pro Wrestling version 80. Apparently, a brand new faction has been formed, and now it's going to be interesting to see. And we got other matches taking place as well. And then, of course, we cap up our episode with some news updates to give you guys updates on what's been happening in the world of pro wrestling, such as what events the promotions are thrown out, who's booked, what matches are set, including developments that are happening in the world of pro wrestling as we speak. So, let's get ready for another episode of the Leaded Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Hey everyone, welcome to the Leaded Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J-Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is the channel where we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews with various promotions from not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK, anywhere in the world where pro wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also, of course, do discussion videos, talk about various topics such as the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want to talk about. We also, of course, do more news updates. If certain information was unable to be on this episode, we can either put it on the next episode or on a separate video by itself. We also, of course, do real-timing news updates to keep you guys on alert if something has happened in the world of pro wrestling that needs to be addressed ASAP. We also, of course, got the Unagi Sayaka Watch and various other cool wrestling content as well. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us or click on that subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of daily reviews and other cool wrestling content as well. But if you like this episode, please give us a like on the like button or a nice comment in the description down below. Now, all introductions have set aside. It's time to get this show on the road. So, let's begin with our very first one, and this is from ChocoPro. Okay, I really need to catch up with ChocoPro, so let's get started anyway. So we're in number 405 with Rising Tension. This is an actual show that went happen on Shinkiba instead of Ichigai Square, where we normally do their shows. This one took place back on November 2nd. As always, when it comes to doing shows like these with these guys, Mei Suga along with Mia and Chi, they do their little Mei Suga song and performance, so nothing too much of a big deal on this one. But anyway, let's get started with our match. Our first match, we have Kao Hiromi actually taking on Mochi Natsumi. Now, it's not the first time that, of course, these two has faced. I mean, they faced off in Ichigaya Square. Now, Mochi did not take, of course, Kaho very seriously because she looks at her as a little girl. I mean, she had the same kind of reaction we saw that Mei Suga had, but Mei Suga thought that she had the advantage. But don't underestimate Kaho with her size, even though she's tiny. But She has big heart. That's all I can say. But of course, like any other type of match, no matter what Kaho do, Mochi Natsumi, it was a bit more stronger, a better experience. It was a leg drop that, in fact, ended this match almost less than 6 minutes. So ends it right there. So next match, we have a very interesting six-person tag match. We have Nonaka Seto, Iri Kane, Masahiro Takanashi taking on Hiroyi Yawada, Shin Suzuki, and Chon Shiru. So nothing too significant of this match. Of course, you have like the most interesting thing is this: if you look at each side of the team, you look at Nonaka and Iri, they're both least experienced wrestlers. I mean, I think Nonaka must be 1 year in experience, Erie just a couple of months. But you look at the other side of the team, the only one that has lesser experience is Hiroyi. So that kind of played out pretty well. But however, it was Chonchiru with a submission onto Nonakaseto that forced her to tap out this match. So it was over. Hiroyi, Shin, and Chon picked up the win. Next up, we have Gaia Hawks versus Balan Aki. Now, recently, I want to put out Balan Aki has not picked up a good singles win since he's been in and out of injury. If you guys know this, he had injury problems with his knee. I don't know how that will play out for him. But however, this match almost ended perfectly. But it was in fact Ga who picked up the win with the pinfall, with using like the Last Supper, which is a move that we've seen Darby Allin do. Apparently, Gaia actually used that in Balan Aki's favor and just worked on his just and pinned him like that. So I have noticed Balan Aki hasn't picked up a good singles win since being injured, but hopefully he gets his groove back. That's one of the things I really like to see. Next up, we do have another six-person tag match. We have Antonio Honda, Tokiko Kihara, and Sawadi Kamen taking on Chiko Shikawa, Seika Obihiro, and of course, someone we haven't seen for a while, Hagane Shino. I don't know where he's been this entire time. I know that Hagane wanted Chi to grow up because, Hagane last time said that, look, I need you to grow up. Be stronger than me. Stop relying on me. And of course, Chi has grown significantly better now. It's great to see him. I didn't expect to see him at all. But I wasn't too sure how this was going to be because we do know that, of course, Chi and Obi, they're both current Asian Dream Tag Champions. So that kind of plays out. But of course, any of the members of the opposing team, most specifically, I know Antonio Honda and Tokiko have been aiming for these tag belts for a long time, but they never got the chance to win them. But unfortunately, that did not happen, all thanks to Hagane Shino when he applied like a somewhat of a modified version of a crucifix onto Tokiko, and just like that, it was over. Now, our next match is a semi main event singles action. We have Sayaka versus Makoto. Nothing too significant on this one, but as I often said about Sayaka, she has grown up as well. She throws in a bit of the violent nature, and it played out pretty well. But unfortunately, when it comes to Makoto, who has better experience than her, she put her away with, of course, with a chokehold, and just like that, it was over. On for a main event, we have the former Asian Dream Tag Champions Mizuki from Tokyo Pro Wrestling and Color's very own Saki. They take on Miya Yotsuba and Mei Shiruga. Now, of course, Mei Shiruga being a bit of a sly devil that I've always seen her be, tried to play her usual tricks, but however, that wasn't it. But I have to say, Miya Yotsuba had more balls than Mei because she wasn't afraid to throw down. But unfortunately, it did not do any favors for Mia because it was Saki with the Kawaii Buster that put her away and allowing Saki to pick up the win for herself and for her teammate. Now, of course, during the post show, we did see some sort of I don't know if exactly you call it like building up for it. It seems that Mia wants a piece of Saki. Now remember, Saki has more experience than Mia, but we'll see what happens. I'm sure they'll announce that somewhere down the line. But for now, we'll just end things with this one and move on with, of course, GLEAT. Okay, GLEAT, G Pro Wrestling version 80. Now, this particular event happened on the 10th of November, but it was not uploaded on their YouTube channel until the 12th. So, anybody ask about the timing? I don't remember where the venue, but let's begin how it started. Now, we did see, of course, um, Takahiro Yamamura, Soma Watanabe, Junji, and JD Lee making their way to the ring. Now, it's still unclear what was going on, but remember, as you guys remember, I mentioned that Yamamura recently is no longer a member of Strong Arts, so he stepped away. But it seems that he was forming some sort of a bond with, of course, with Watanabe, Junji, and Lee. And that was unclear until now that they were making the announcement of a brand new faction called G Rise. So hopefully I can pronounce it right here is G dash Rize. So G Rise. So they have like this thing called the GLEAT Generation. So I thought it was a pretty good name. However, apparently some another faction was not too pleased and another faction was formed, and that is of course BGI. As you know, BGI are determined to prove that they are the current number one faction in GLEAT. So we'll see where that goes from there. Now, our opening match, we have Ise Onitsuke teaming up with Arashi, taking on the members of Bulk Orchestra, Koki Awasaki, and Kazuma Sakamoto. Now, of course, remember, Onisaki is part of the Yans family. We haven't seen the other members, Kodoka and I forgot his name. But yes, they haven't been he hasn't been teaming up with the other members, but he has been teaming with people outside. Recently, he just teamed up with Kuma Arashi. But however, it was of course Kazuma Sakamoto with a somewhat version of the Shining Wizard to Onitsuka, allowing for him to pick up the win. Next match, we have Osuka taking on Chris Bridway. Now, of course, we have seen Osuki actually pick up some good wins in submissions, most definitely with UWF rules. However, Chris Ridgway is no secret because we have seen what an incredible technical wrestler he can be. But it was him with a submission onto you that picked up the win, just like that. Next up, we have a very interesting intergender tag match. We have Michiko. She teams up with Takanori Ito and Minoru Tanaka. They take on Akira and members of BGI, Kishi's Sato and Tetsuya Sushi. So basically, nothing too significant of the match, except there's only two Yoshi wrestlers. Now, those who know Akari is not from the promotion. She's from Pure J. That's her main promotion she's been in so far. But however, it was of course Ito with a beautiful German suplex that put away Sato, and just like that, they picked up the win. Now our next match, this one is a very fun one. We have Parker Boudreaux. You may remember him part of the Mogul Enterprise with Surf Circling. Well, he's made his appearance in Japan recently, and he had a very interesting teaming up. He teams up with Masi Boudreaux, which is of course Shima, and Shima comes out with like I think the core tattoos or something like that, acting like him. I mean, it seems like they were a good team, but they were facing against a team that had more cohesion. We're talking about Bulk Orchestra, Quiet Storm, and our current G-Rex champion Hayato Tamura. But however, this match ended with Quiet Storm with a big lariat onto Shima to pick up the win. Of course, Parker was not too happy that he lost, but he had a great time. It's like teaming up with Shima, who, of course, those who know this behind the scenes, he's like somewhat of a booker, and he actually gave him the opportunity. Hopefully, we see Parker more there. That's a good thing to see. Now, these two guys, our next match is a very interesting one because these guys have faced off in UWF rules, either in singles or in tag matches. We have Seichi Ikimoto and Ryo Aitaka. Now, of course, they're both part of the same breed, but in the end, it was, of course, a somewhat of a short lariat onto Ikamoto to pick up the win by Aitaka. So nothing too significant, but we'll see where that goes from there. Now for our semi-main event, we have, of course, Strong Hearts consistent of El Lindaman, Seki Yoshioka, and T-Hawk taking on anti-Glee monsters Chris Weiss, Brass Knuckles June, and Ruchi Kawakami. Now, of course, you guys were doing dirty tricks, but unfortunately, they managed to handcuff T-Hawk in on the opposite side of the turnbuckle, where, of course, in like away from their side. And of course, ref was out and all that, and there was a lot of things taking place. But however, T Hawk was able to get himself out of the handcuffs and get back in the game. But it was a Cobra clutch by T Hawk onto June that picked up the win. And just like that, it was over. But however, Ru Aitaka showed up, and it seems that he has something he had to say with T Hawk. I don't know exactly what they said, but we'll see where that goes. Now for our main event, we have G Rise, Junji, Takahiro Yamamura, JD Lee, and Soma Watanabe. They take on BGI, Kotaro Suzuki, Soda Manji, Hartley Jackson, and Kaito Ishida. So as you all know, BGI don't not will not tolerate another faction try to steal the thunder, and that's unfortunately G Rise that stepped up to the plate. But however, it was a Larry to the back of the head by Soda Manji onto JD Lee, allowing for BGI to pick up the win. And of course, by the end of the event, G Rise decided to throw out a promo, and many other members of the roster come out except for BGI. So we'll see what happens until then. There is a scheduled event coming up from GLEAT real soon. We'll see what happens. For now, let's move on with our next review, and that is TNA. All right, TNA. Our opening match, Mike Santana versus Casey Navarro. Now, of course, the significance of the story of this match is more where First Class, more specifically AJ Francis and Casey Navarro, were trying to bring in Mike Santana, saying, well, you need friends like us. But we all know Mike Santana. He doesn't have few friends, but he does make alliances with wrestlers who are in common ground with him. Like the System, for example, is one of them. No one will ever forget that he was single-handedly took them out one by one. But however, how would this affect him now, knowing that he it's more like people are looking him as the free agent, if you know what I mean. But it did not stop him because Casey Navarro ended up with the spin the block, and just like that, it was over. Now, during an interview with Gia Miller, she talked with the Meneth brothers, Ryan, who will be dealing with Joe Hendry, and of course Nick. He is now being scheduled to face Eddie Edwards at Turning Point, but he will be dealing with Brian Myers in a not title match. So we'll see how that goes. Now Gia Miller conducts another interview, but this time with the Hardys and Ace Austin. Now, as you all know, Ace Austin's tag partner, he is out of action due to an injury he obtained at Bound for Glory, but now he's tagging along with the Hardys until Trent Seven showed up, trying to butt into whatever business they were doing until Hammerstone and Jake Something showed up out of nowhere. And then, of course, Santino Morella was not too pleased, so as the director of authority, he decides to take matters into his own hands. I'm sure that maybe next week there will be a six-man tag match with all of these men taking place. So we'll just wait and see. Now, our next match, we have Jake Chris and the frontman Alan Angels for the first time teaming up. Who could forget about of course, the design and OVE one time butting heads, and now they're teaming up. But they're facing against the Rascals. So right now the Rascals are, as you know, they're not been at the usual source until last week. They made a trip to the treehouse to get some of that inspiration. So the real question is, did it work? Well, it kind of did. Um, they used their usual method, and then of course it was Trey Miguel who picks up the pin by pinning the frontman. So a visit to treehouse, not bad, even though it's not the same as what with wet without West. but they'll make do. Now, our next match, we have the Northern Armory, consisting of Josh Alexander, Judas Ikra, and Tracy Williams. So they face against Eric Young, the Octopus, Jonathan Gresham, and of course Steve Macklin. Now, of course, at some point I thought in this match there'll be some miscommunications, which it happened between Eric Young and Steve Macklin, which in resulted of Macklin ended up being in the C4 spike by Josh Alexander. But we did see, of course, Macklin later on talking with Santino, feeling that this thing with Josh Alexander is not over. But he had a little confrontation with Eric Young, and Jonathan Gresham was there, but saying, hey guys, look, you guys need to deal with this, okay? I'm not getting involved. But I will get involved when you guys need help to deal with Alexander. So that's about it. But Eric Young gave him a piece of advice, so he has to figure things out on his own, what he needs to do. And, he's kind of right, so we'll see where that goes. Now, the so-called king, as you know, talked about Rhino and Call Your Shot Gauntlet. Of course, he said he defeated Rhino in his hometown. And then, of course, the Call Your Shot Gauntlet trophy, as you know, is his one meal ticket that he needs in order to win the TNA World title. Nick Bennett is not an idiot. He knows that he's being looked at by Kazarian, but we'll see where that leads us from there. Our next match, we have Ryan Bennett versus Joe Hendry. But before anything else, if you guys remember what happened last week, Joe Hendry actually put out a little video, and it was so funny. It was a picture said the story of Ryan Bennett, that he is Nick Bennett's brother. The end. I completely laughed, guys. I was like, I nearly peed on myself just by that, because he played it twice. But of course, Nick Bennett did not take it too kindly until Joe Hendry put him in the standing ovation and putting him away, giving him the win. Now, our next match, Rosemary taking on Jada Stone. So basically, this match ended with her, of course, winning with the acid bomb and bowl, or acid bowl, whatever it's called. But it was over. Now, we did see Alicia Edwards, as you know, complaining and bitching and calling out Masha Slamovich, as you know, calling her that, saying, oh, you're holding this title just for me. And then Tasha Steele showed up. And then, of course, Jordan Grace showed up, saying that she will take her rematch clause at Turning Point. So the real question is, who will face, of course, Jordan Grace at Turning Point? Will it be Masha or Alicia? So that's going to be interesting to see. Now, our main event, we had Nick Bennett versus Brian Myers. So the system, once again, with their usual tactics, get involved. And, of course, Eddie Edwards got caught with his hand in the cookie jar, and he was ejected by the ref. And then Alicia also did the same thing. But, however, Joe Hendry decided to take matter of his own hands to carry Alicia Edwards out. But luckily, it was, of course, Nick Bennett with the danger zone that allowed him to pick up the win. And then once again, Edwards tried to get involved. And then Joe Hendry showed up out of nowhere, giving him a helping hand. But we know there's tensions between Hendry and Bennett. We don't know where that leads, but we'll see what happens until then. But for now, we'll end things here with TNA and move on with Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor. We open up with a four-way tag match. We have the Gates of Agony, Bishop Khan, and Tail Leona versus the Dark Order's John Silver and Alex Ronald versus the Grizzled Young Vets, our brand new New Japan Strong Openweight Tag Team Champions, Zach Gibson and James Drake. And then finally, of course, the Undisputed Kingdom, Matt Taven and Mike Bennett. Now, of course, any type of matches like this can go chaotic. It's no secret. It's still unclear. Now, some of you may have a favorite, A part of me would like to think the Grizzly Young Veterans will be like the most likely team, because we know they will determine to, of course, win the tag team titles and try to prove a point. Matt Taven and Mike Bennett have the most experience because they've been very cohesion throughout the years. So that kind of plays out. But it was the Hail Mary by Taven and Bennett that put away Silver, and of course Bennett was the one that picked up the win for his team. Our next match, we have Sammy Guevara and Dustin Rhodes taking on the Shot Through the Heart, consisting of TJ Crawford and Love Dog. Yeah, that's the name of the tag team. I did not expect that. But however, of course, this match was going to go in favor of Sammy and Dustin when, of course, they did a stereotype move. Dustin took out a Love Dug with the Crossroads, while Sammy took out Crawford with the GTH, and just like that, it was over. But as soon as it was over, surprise, surprise, those dumb, crazy nut jobs, the Righteous, showed up once again to prove a point, and all this and that. So that kind of sets it out. So this feud between them is far from over. Now, our next match, we have Griff Garrison, who we haven't seen for quite some time. Now he shows up. He teams up with Preston Vance, which is a very interesting team. We haven't seen either Cole Carter for a while either, but let's see how that rolls up. But they face against Waves and Curls and all that. But you can tell that this match ended with a discus lariat by Preston Vance onto Trevon Jordan by Preston Vance, and just like that, it was over, giving him and his team the win. Our next match we have, of course, is the Aaron Solo versus Katsuyori Shibata. It's no secret that those who know this or not, Shibata trained Solo himself. So the real question is, can Solo outbeat the Master? Well, the truth to be told, that match ended with, of course, the Cobra Clutch by Shibata, allowing himself to pick up the win. Now, our next match, we have Josh Woods of the Premier Athletes taking on Commander. Now, as usual, with that weasel, Mark Sterling, getting involved, well, he thought he can get away with it until Axe Brahamantis speared his rotten corpse, So that works until Josh Woods threw him out the ring, and then, of course, Commander took him out with the Shooting Star Press. Next up, Abaddon, after losing to, of course, Athena, deals with Viva Van, which, of course, no problems at all. But it was Abaddon that picked up the win with the Black Dahlia, and just like that, it was over. Now, there was another emergency Manium empowerment meeting set up by Lexi Near to talk about the possibilities of Billy Starks apologizing to Athena. So it seems things were not going so apologetic until Layla Gray from Top Flight showed up and asked for a proving ground match. So that match will happen next week, so we'll see how that rolls up. Now, speaking of proving ground match, of course, Athena faces against Hyan. Hyan, who's been well recognized in Ring of Honor before. Well, you can guess that Hyan tried to take matters in her own hands, but it was Athena with the crossface that allowed her to pick up the win, and once again, and during the post-match, with her usual shenanigans. Now, our next match, we have the Righteous taking on Sammy Diaz and Matt Raymond. Well, you can guess this match falls into Righteous thanks to Vincent taking out Diaz. However, they put out a promo, and then, of course, that pig, Dutch, decided to say things about Dustin Rhodes' dad, saying that he's a better son than him. Well, Dustin's going to kick your behind, pal, for saying things like that. You're going to wish you never said it. And then Vincent's saying that they should have been Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions long time ago. Well, how long you waited? Until Easter? We'll see. Now, this match is a bit of a rematch that happened a while back, but now they're kicking up a notch. A false count anywhere for the Ring of Honor Women's World Television title. Diamante versus Red Velvet. Now, the last time these two team up, Diamante had this match win, but no, she completely lost her cool, costing the match being disqualification and leaving Red Velvet, all beaten up. But, however, those who know this or not, Red Velvet took some time off from Ring of Honor to head down south to Mexico to participate in the Women's Grand Prix, which she was honored to be part of. And now that she's back, took matters in her own hands. That's where we lead. So there was a lot of plunder. There was tables, trash cans, whatever goes. So Diamante tried to put her away in every way possible by using these weapons. But it was the straight out of your mama's kitchen that took out Diamante, and Red Velvet retain the title. So that's pretty much it. We'll see who will be the next challenger to step up. But for now, let's end things here with Ring of Honor and move on with our last and final thing, news updates. so welcome to our news updates. So let's begin. We only have one from upcoming events from the promotions. The only one we have is Arrival with three that takes place on the 22nd of November. And this one features Myron Reed versus Dante Leon. So that's going to be a very interesting match to look into. Now for some developments. Now, if you guys know any wrestlers that are interested in taking investments in the wrestling craft, New Japan Academy has announced for a new classes beginning on, of course, January 20th, 2025 at the LA Dojo. So if anybody's interested, the coaches considered Kushida, Fred Rosser, and of course DKC. Their email is ladojo at newjapan.co.jp. So it's going to be LA Dojo, LA Dojo dash. Well, I'll put it out here somewhere. Hopefully, I remember it. And then, of course, now we move on. WID. I'm not sure if it's official now, but it was announced from certain outlets that Aaron Rourke is now part of that. So that's going to be interesting to hear. Now, Mike Bailey has been announced by PW Insider that his TNA deal has officially ended on November 1st. Speculation that he is in AEW bound. There have been reports recently, about a while back, that he actually appeared at the AEW shows. There are those that believe that he may bring in some, a lot of things there, but that's going to be fine. But yeah. Now moving on, Mio Shirai. Many of you remembered I mentioned that she would never step foot into the MARIGOLD events or place wherever they're at, due to whatever reasons, issues she has to Rossy Ogawa. But however, MARIGOLD just had their much recent event in Corkin Hall, and the main event features now Ishikawa. Those who know this, it was Mio Shirai who trained her herself. This is what she said. Let me pull it up real quick. Um, this is what she said. Today I went to Corkin Hall to watch wrestling. It was to see the growth of my former students, and I hope they continue to do well, stay injury free. So it's great that she went to see those students as well. So there's that. Now, Rossy Ogawa has talked about recently about Io Sky, of course, Mighty Gold, and all this other stuff. So this is what he had to say. So let's talk. He was asked about Io Sky's entrance in the Mighty Gold in Summer Dynasty. At the time, Io contacted me saying that she wanted to put some effort into the production, and asked if we could do something to like Smoke Effect, and I was willing to pay a little bit if that's the case. So that's pretty cool of him to think that way. He even talked about how he felt. They asked him if how he felt about her change watching after the match. Her match, or rather her moves, hadn't changed, but she had that star-like aura about her, and her timing and stuff was completely different. It was like she has become a different person. But the match was very Japanese, not Io Sky you see on WWE. So Rossi has his own opinion about it, so it's really good that he sees it that way. He even talks about Io Sky pairing Mighty Gold and not Stardom, because remember, we all know Io Sky was in Stardom before going to WWE, and this is what he said. People thought that she might appear in Stardom because she was formerly with Stardom, but Stardom is doing things that aren't necessary. So there's no way she'd appear, and that in that sense, I think she's become back where she belongs. So basically, it's more like loyalty to Rossi, from what I can tell, but it's understandable. And he even talked about the atmosphere in Mighty Gold about since Julia left. No, the atmosphere hasn't really changed. It just doesn't. We just don't want to actually have someone like Julia to take the leadership role in the first place. But I think it's coming together well. It's very nice of him to think that way. That he doesn't think that nothing has changed, but he understands that sooner or later someone will have to step up. So we'll see where that goes. Now, Sean Ross Sapp has officially talked about Kenny Omega, about why he's returning to New Japan, and this is what he said. He said he feels like he owed New Japan for a lot of opportunity that he has. he doesn't feel like AEW roster needs it much as right now. Doesn't want to take some spots that has worked for it. So so it's interesting that now that Kenny feels okay, things are going well for AEW. He doesn't feel like I need to step in. So I think he'll step in with the right timing. But right now he's making his effort with New Japan and all that. So that's good from him. So I think that's pretty much it. So let's just call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up, we may have AEW Rampage and NXT Level Up. I haven't decided what we're gonna do. I'm thinking about doing the Pro Wrestling Noah Magic Monday, which is one of those shows they do on Mondays on certain times. We'll see how it goes from there. But for now, we'll just leave Rampage and NXT Level Up are at the top priority. But we'll see how things will progress. But for now, we'll leave it as that. But until then, I will see you guys in the next DWZ time. Same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye. Mwah, and have a nice day. Bang.